Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the No Laying Up podcast. My name is DJ, joined by the Beluga, Neil Schuster. Neil, how are you?
I'm fantastic, Deej. As always, I'm doing fantastic.
I'd love to hear that. Good to be with you. This is going to be another one of what we're calling kind of our golf spotlight episodes. Neil, you broke the ice with this one, an episode that received pretty universally rave reviews. I think just you getting deep in the lab, talking about your own golf game, your own demons, your own goals, just a lot of stuff. Any kind of lingering takeaways from that and going through that process from you?
No, I was pleasantly surprised that people were fired up to listen to it. I forgot to say before we started recording, I wanted to do like the Chris Collinsworth chair roll in
Sure.
with, we have TC. It is a TC spotlight. I was thinking we could keep them backstage and pop them in. But I'm really excited. I know I talked a good amount, like my early golf memories were included a lot of TC in them. Honestly, I don't know if I've ever really, talked about how TC got into the game, and I got into it because I followed him out there. So I'm curious to hear his perspective on, you know, I probably won't feature in as much because I was just tagging along. But let's put the interview light on Big Brother here.
As you mentioned, we are going to be talking about your large brother, TC. Tron, good afternoon, my man. How are you?
Hey guys, I'm good. I'm good. Good to be here with you. I love having the tables turned.
Well, we're going to get into a lot of different things about your golf game. Before we do, let's just level set for the people. I think, for the people who have listened to this podcast for a long time, who have watched our YouTube videos for a long time, they've seen you play a lot of golf. They're very familiar with your game. But for those that aren't, give me just like a couple data points, current handicap, ball speed, any of that kind of stuff to kind of describe your game.
Yeah, I'm a 2.3 handicap at this moment, February 13th. We're recording this.
And this is at
Uh
2:13 PM. So if this changes later in the day, that's currently where
yeah,
we're at.
Two
Central
two
Time.
thirteen Central,
That's
Deej.
right. Yeah, thank you.
2.3, I think that fluctuates anywhere from about a point 0.9. I don't really get below that to about a 3.1. I don't really get above that very often. But it's strikes and gutters in the meantime. It's, very, I would say relatively high floor and a relatively low ceiling. And as far as the ball speed, DJ, I'm going to put my hand up and say I have no idea.
That's great. I think
I
that
have no
speaks
idea where I'm floating at. And I think that's kind of an analogy for my game.
you took the words out of my mouth. I think that speaks to a lot. Well, again, just a couple procedural questions, but talk to me about what's in the bag and what clubs you're gaming right now.
Yeah, I've been God, I used to be a tinkerer, like the opposite of a tinkerer. I don't take these clubs out of my hand, like out of my
Like cold
over my
dead
dead
hands.
body kind of thing. We'll go kind of down the bag. I've had the GT2 in the bag. I freaking love it. I feel like I have a 15th club in the bag with how good it is off the ground as well. Sometimes I don't even tee it up on the tee box. I just hit it off the ground.
What
Uh,
loft are you playing, TC?
I have an 11 degree.
Same.
Let's see. I used to play an 8 degree growing up. I always played an 8 degree. I had a 7.5 for a while, and then that was in the days before adjustable drivers. Like I always put too much spin on the ball, and so a couple years ago, we started working with Titleist again. It was like, oh my gosh, like I need to put more loft on my ball to get my spin down. Like how that's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. Sure enough, it worked. I have a TSR or a GT2 3 wood, and then I really want to shout out my 5 wood. I went from a 7 wood to a 5 wood. It's the 18 degree. Like if I need an absolute like must hit this fairway, it is that club. It puts enough spin on the ball to where it really, feels like it can kind of hold its line. And love that thing. I've graduated. I'm pleased to report, guys, after our first couple years with Titleist, I graduated back into a 4 iron from the
Congratulations.
24-degree hybrid. Yeah, back into a 4 iron, which is great. I've got a 4 and 5 iron that are T200. Then I've got 6 iron through 9 iron that are T150, and I've got S300 shafts in those. And I'm a big cord grip guy. I've got Golf Pride cord grips on there. And what else we got? We've got 46-degree Vokey wedge. I've kind of gone to the Vokey pitching wedge there. I love that thing. So I got 46, 50, 54, 58. And the 54 was I'm getting better and better and better at that. The 58 has turned into a weapon, especially out of the bunkers. I'm in that T grind, and
He grind,
they sent
man.
the A plus grind. They've sent an M grind, a D grind. Nope, T grind is that 4 degrees of bounce. T grind is
Sweet.
where I'm at.
The TC
So
It just
grind.
sits so nice on the turf, TC.
yeah, and
Um,
then I've got the wider, kind of the Newport, the 2 plus. Wider, a little bit heavier, a little bit more MOI, but still looks like a blade, basically. So
Well, and I also want to shout out our friends at Footjoy, one of the presenting sponsors of this series.
yeah.
Give me one pair of shoes you'd wear every day for the rest of your life. Golf
Uh,
shoes. You're a big,
you know what?
big shoe guy.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm a huge, huge premiere. Like I just love the premieres, the
of course.
Tarlos and
He
the
has hundreds, maybe thousands of
yeah,
Hundreds.
pairs of premieres.
Has a
yeah.
bunch of JT's extra premieres.
Well,
His
now I
garage
just
has
get
been
my
full of
own.
premieres for years.
Yeah, like we were sponsored by other shoe companies. I would go to PGA Tour Superstore and buy premieres off the shelf. That's how much I like them. But weirdly, guys, I'm kind of trying to open up my horizons here, my perspective, and I've been wearing the Quantums
Mm.
quite a bit. These are the Field Collection. These are freaking awesome, great for Florida. And then I've never been a Hyperflex guy until they came out with these new ones, and they look clean. I feel like I'm glued to the ground in these. I need spikes. That's kind of my thing. If there's any sort of moisture in the ground, my feet tend to slip and slide and move all over the place, and I like feeling like I'm stationary and locked in. And these
I would
Hyperflexes are awesome.
yes. The Hyperflex and they're really working on the style with the Hyperflex. They've gotten so much better the last 2 years on just like the color scheme, little less pop color in them. The new ones for 2025 are awesome.
Same thing too. They're lower on the ankle as
Yeah.
well, which I like. I feel like they came up too high, and they were like a mid kind of height. Now they're more similar to how I like my shoes to fit. I like my ankle to be kind of free.
I know I'm not in the spotlight, but the Quantums are, call me out, but I wear those when I'm watching golf.
Yeah.
Uh,
I thought you
walking
meant
around
like
Pebble
in
Beach.
your apartment. I was
No,
like, oh,
no,
that's
and
cool,
well, it's
man.
bad weather here in New York. I've been wearing them in the snow,
Yeah, it's
like in the
great.
slush. They're great. Utility play for sure. And the Hyperflexes TC, they just make you feel like an athlete.
Yeah.
Well,
Truly.
well, Neil, let me throw it to you. First question. You take it wherever you want to go here.
Oh man. Okay, TC, what is your like? I want to hear your first golf memory. So I'm gonna hit you with a Phil Mickelson
Oh,
inspired
I
2-part
hate
question.
2-part questions.
First golf memory, because I don't know what it is, and the second one is like what you are the reason that I got the golf bug. What gave you the golf bug when we were growing up? And I think it was when we moved back from Canada to Atlanta. But
Yeah.
that's my 2-part opener.
Yeah, when we were growing up, like our family, we were always social members at Dunwoody Country Club. We didn't have a golf membership. Our parents played a lot of tennis up there. Franchise was kind of a menace on the doubles scene up there. Shout out to our guy Mike Edwards on that front. And then we would hit up the pool and all that. But I remember our parents were always golf fans, but they weren't necessarily really golfers. Does that jive, Neil?
That definitely jives. I know they went to the Masters when Bernhard Longer won in 1990, I think.
I don't think he won in 1990. I think it
Or
was after they were supposed to go, and they went a few times when they lived in Chicago. And our grandpa was always our mom's dad was always a big golfer. And
big part of Arnie's army.
yeah, big part of Arnie's army.
Enlisted or officer or what?
I think they went to OCS.
Yeah, let me just get in front of the mea culpa. I don't know when Bernhard Longer, what year he won the Masters, but I know my parents were there.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, well, I think they were supposed to go,
I don't know either.
the second week of April, 1986, and
Hmm.
then I was born, so they couldn't go.
Oh.
That might have been when you originally caught the golf bug, thanks to Mr. Nicholas.
Exactly, exactly. So I distinctly remember, like we would go up to Dunwoody and go for like the Easter egg hunt, and you just go run around on the golf course. I'm like, oh, like this is like that's cool. Like what are they doing out here? And then I remember our grandparents on the other side, Ken and Betty Schuster, lived in Cincinnati. Neil, I know in your episode you talked about the miniature golf place in Canada that had
Yeah, that had the fighter jet motif, which a guy DM'd us and
yeah.
found it's no longer operational, which is unfortunate.
That's
But
unfortunate.
he did give us the location of that. That did exist.
But I think for me, some of it comes down to just like even putt putt. of like going out. Like we would always play
Oh,
miniature golf.
Fantasia.
Yeah, there was a place called Funtasia. It was Mountasia, and they turned it into Funtasia. I think it was a 54 or 72 hole complex out of Holcomb Bridge Road
That's
in
right.
Atlanta.
Up on the cliff there, off
Crazy
the
water
left side of
features. Yeah,
Holcomb
I
Bridge.
mean, dude, it's crazy that they were able to route a golf course on this piece of land, much
It was
less
a
dirt
mountain
floor.
track, Deej.
Yeah.
True mountain golf.
All sorts of
Which could be hit
wildlife
or
out
miss.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but we would go there when we would visit our grandparents in Cincinnati. There was a place called Forest Fair Mall that had
Oh,
a
with the
big
Ferris
indoor
wheel.
spot.
That's right.
Uh, I remember in Canada, Neil, there was a place at, I think it was Don Mills or around there. There's a big mall there where they were like 50 and 60-yard holes with like actual bunkers and water hazards and stuff like that. It was more like a long putting thing. But I don't know, I was always just fascinated with like putt and thinking, all right, like, man, I want to go play a par three course or I want to go play a real golf course. So fast forward, I remember that same golf clinic that you referenced in yours up in Canada. And then even before that, I remember dad cutting down a few clubs for us. I think they were like knockoff pings. Like they weren't even like real pings, but
It's like
they were like these
counterfeit pigs.
knockoff, kind of like basically like a knockoff of like a ping zing thing. And so we ended up I would just swing that 7-iron around and I think he had like it was a tour model or something like that. I think there was a brand called Tour Model. And I would just swing that 7-iron around the front yard. I remember my parents had this was in this was at our house in Atlanta before we moved to Canada. They had really nice, like, tight Bermuda in the front, and our dad had the reel mower, for the front, and then he had fescue in the back, and so, you kinda play around the house like that. So, I don't know, it was always just, like, the concept of golf was always kind of not really thrust upon us, but it was always just kinda like, "Oh, like, this fun little diversion over here on the side." And then gosh, we moved back from Canada. We lived in Canada for 2 years. We moved back from Canada in 1996 during the Atlanta Olympics.
Right before 2 weeks before the Olympics.
Yeah, and I think shortly after that, I would go up to Dunwoody Country Club and play the 9-hole actually, I would go out to River Pines and play the par 3 course
Oh, yeah,
out
that's right.
there.
They had the little par 3 out there.
Yeah, and I remember
They
even
still
then,
do.
like, the 18-hole course was a bridge too far, I hadn't gotten there yet. This was, like,
Yeah.
going into 5th grade, I think, so maybe a little bit late coming to the game, and then Dunwoody had I think 7 or 8 AM on Fridays, you go out and play the back 9. Like, we weren't golf members yet at that point, so go out and play the back 9, walk, and, so I think I started doing that, and then I remember you came out and started coming with as well, Neil. And then from then on, it was like basically, going over to the driving range. There was a driving range over off Holcomb Bridge called Deer Valley. There was a driving range over off Holcomb Bridge, or off of Morgan Falls called Steel Canyon.
Yeah.
Uh, and then, but yeah, like basically just like begging mom and dad to take me to the driving range or take me to the golf course. And so from there, they joined Dominic Country Club as golf members. They kind of upgraded the golf membership, and then from there it was just drop me off at 8 AM and pick me up at 8 PM, or I'll ride my bike home or whatever, and that was that, and kinda the rest was history. So, went from there to Atlanta Junior Golf, like, we would do little tournaments up at Dunwoody, but, like, I never really took lessons, I guess, which maybe that's why I'm so
Well,
messed up.
I brought up Kellenhofer, TC. We did go see our guy out
Yeah,
off
like,
of
there was a few like,
85.
there was a guy, Roger, there was a guy, Jason Bender, who was one of the assistant pros. He was the punter for Georgia Tech back
Jason
in
was
the
the
day.
man.
Yeah, he was the best. And then Roger, I took lessons from him, and then George, I mean, I think we went to him probably 4 or 5 times, Neil, and it was all video stuff and very technical, and that really didn't jive with me, I think, either. And I think also, like, I was always playing with hand-me-down clubs. Like, never ever had my own set of, new irons, or like, it was a big deal. I would save up and buy wedges, or I remember I got a 975 F fairway wood when they came out with that. That was my a 14 or 14 and a half degree with the graphic shaft in it. I remember that. And then I got the 975J
And
driver.
that's when you became the generational driver of the golf ball that we
Truly,
all know.
truly. Like
You
that
played
was
that
yeah,
driver I
because
think you played that driver all the way till, like, through college.
well, yeah, I had the J and then I got the 983K. And
God,
that was those were
they had
like,
to sell so many of those drivers.
oh man, like I sometimes I take it out to the range even today and just like it's I
And
love
then,
that club.
TC will love this. Again, I'm not I the spotlight's on you, but I ended up getting the 983E, which was, like, the exact opposite driver I should have gotten, and
Like
TC's just
fade
making fun of
bias.
me. Complete buyer's remorse, didn't get fitted. I just, like, demoed it out of the pro shop, like, "Oh, this feels good." TC's like, "You're
Yeah.
a moron. Why would you get this driver?"
But it was always one of those things where like mom and dad were never really they weren't golfers. And so they didn't really like I don't know, they didn't like so like our dad, I remember like he's got kind of a one track mind. So he would go to God, what was I don't know if it was Edwin Watts or there was this golf store out in Alpharetta, and he went out and he bought like these like we called them the satellite dishes. They were like the biggest
Big Bertha X12s, because I played them for a while, and with
tungsten.
graphite
My
shafts. I
my
mean,
dad had
these
the
things,
X18s. I remember
I mean,
that
I
just
think the
vivid.
iron was
Yes.
they
it
were
was like
so
half an
sick.
inch thick, the thing, and yeah, he had these graphite shafts in him, and then he had, the biggest Big Bertha driver, and I remember I played
Warbirds.
that for a while, and it was, like, probably the worst possible like, it was too long for me, and it was the worst possible shaft and all of that stuff, so I kinda go back and I'm like, "Man, if" club fitting wasn't really as big of a thing back then, but man, if I would have been fit properly into clubs, not even new clubs, right? If it was just like, hey, here's a set of, like I played a set of 962 from Chris Marsh, our next door neighbor, gave me his set of nines. I had a set of Tommy Armor,
Which you
whatever
passed down to
those
me,
were.
eight
Yeah,
995s.
yeah, and then I had the 962s, but I had a 994 iron. I didn't have the 962 4 iron for whatever reason. I always really liked the 4 iron. It was a lot more forgiving and just a much better golf club, which, you know, man, like it was a came out 4 years later. Of course it was. But yeah, I don't know. Long story short, I'm rambling like crazy here, but I think overall it was just like got into Atlanta Junior Golf and it was so cool to like get the schedule at the beginning of the summer or like in April and be like, "Oh my gosh, like I could go play a tournament at Atlanta Athletic Club, or I could go play a tournament at this muni that I've never heard of, or like really most of the state was included, and it would be tournaments on Mondays and Tuesdays primarily. It was 18-hole tournaments, and yeah, I mean, just kind of I was hooked, and then started playing Southeastern Junior Golf, and yeah, so that was kind of how I got into it. Was like I don't know, it was just even a way to explore different parts of Atlanta that I'd never been to, or different parts of the state.
Well, this is kind of flashing forward, and obviously we'll jump around all over the place, but I wanna go back to your because I was in the exact same boat, never really had lessons, never had my own clubs, like, for me until, like, we did our first Callaway deal, I think was the first time I actually got, like, clubs that were fit to me, and as a result, I always have, like, a very weird relationship with instruction. I find
Yeah.
instruction incredibly difficult now, I overthink things, I just have played my best golf when I'm playing extremely naturally, and I'm curious if you are the same way because of how you grew up.
Yeah, I have a tough time sticking to a like, I think there's stuff that people can point out that I'm like, "Oh, yeah, like, that's clearly something to work on," but it's never been like, "I'm gonna rebuild your swing in this mold," or, "I'm gonna figure out how to get you to these positions," I guess. So I've always kinda had that it's less now, but kinda over the top, compress the ball. I played a tight draw back in the day. It's funny, like, I had a 53-degree gap wedge and a 56-degree sand wedge. I've never had a lob wedge. Those 2 clubs I played radically differently. Like, they were only 3 degrees aloft different, and I think I would play wildly different shots with each of those clubs. It was like Neil had this Ram
55
54
degree.
degree or 55
55.
degree.
Yeah, it hit the grooves off of that thing. All of it, like, hand-me-down stuff. Like,
Yeah.
shout out to Chris Marsh because it wasn't from our dad, it was from our next door neighbor.
Yeah, well, and it was kinda one of those things where, like, even when we were playing junior golf, it was never like, "Man, we're gonna do everything we can to make you the best golfer you can possibly be." It was always just like yeah, just like, roll the balls out and like figure it out kind of
Yeah,
thing,
good
which
activity. I think I think Peg, our mom, had I think she kind of saw around the corner on, like, I think this is a good life skill, almost like learning the piano or something. Like,
yeah.
oh, these guys are showing an interest in this. Like, that seems like something that, like, important people do. Like, maybe they should play golf
And I think I think there's something there with like, or like we would play golf in the morning and like go over and play tennis all afternoon or go to the pool
for
kind
sure.
of thing and like entertain ourselves. But it was always kind of one of those things of like our parents didn't give a shit whether we finished first or 20th. And it was more just like, hey, did you have fun today? Did how was the course? Did you feel like you improved? Like it was, I don't know, it was always just kind of one of those things of like, yeah, of course they wanted you to do well, but that was almost secondary for why we were out there. It was like, do you still love playing golf? I guess was
That was
always
true
the big
across
thing.
most sports, though. It's like, we're not
Yeah.
trying to. They were never pushing us to get a scholarship in
Yeah.
anything, and maybe
And then
that's
even when
just
they
a
did,
different
like
era.
I remember I was playing pretty good golf junior year, like heading into junior year of high school, but I was still playing football. And I remember mom and dad sitting me down and being like, hey, do you want to, like, if you really put your mind to this, you could probably play in college, but you're not going to play like D1 golf. Like, it'd be like you could probably go play in at a college, not the college that you want to go play at. And I was like, I think I'm good. Like, I don't want to go out and hang out on the range by myself while like all my buddies are at football practice, or it's kind of like, I'm a like I kind of showed up at football and I was like, yeah, I'm a golfer, but I'm playing football today. And I showed up at golf, in you know late January, and I was like, oh yeah, like I'm knocking off some rust. And that was kind of how it went during high school golf season too. Like I would be the five, 6, 7, or 8 player in February, and I'd be the 3 or 4 player
And
come,
then the rat would find the
know,
cheese by
yeah,
the
April or
by
May.
regionals.
Well,
Yeah,
I definitely
exactly.
have some specific high school golf questions because I have known both of you for a very long time now, and I've heard enough tell of the legendary rounds of, hitting 18 greens, shooting 77,
Yes.
things like that. So I kinda wanna hear that from, like, both of your perspectives, like, whoever, because
Well,
Neil, I know you're kinda outside the ropes, so to speak, and
yeah.
TC, I wanna know what it was like, for you too. So, whoever wants to go first.
Well, one thing I wanna add, just, to, I don't know, sum up how TC was definitely into golf, though. Like, you were always cleaning your clubs the night before tournaments,
Yeah.
and, like what you were saying about, like, you cherished your 3 wood, much more so than I did. I wouldn't call you a gearhead, but you were kinda into the meditative aspect
The
of the prep
details.
work. Yeah,
Like, I
details
liked
mattered
being
for
a
TC.
golfer.
Yeah.
It was
Yes,
like,
exactly.
man, like, I
You were, like,
liked
taking pride in
yeah,
the whole experience.
yeah, totally. I think Deej, I mean, I was always a good ball striker. I think some of it was like I didn't know how to read greens, or I just didn't know how to get the ball in the hole, man.
Which is kinda why I was laughing when you were describing, like, "Yeah, I used to go play all this putt-putt, man, it was so great, that's really what got me hooked." I was like, "Yeah, but don't you suck at putting?" Like, what? I mean, imagine once you're like, "Oh, man, there's, like, this whole other element to the game," like, that seems like it would've been what hooked you, right? Like, fucking
Yeah.
Ben
I mean, I
Hogan.
think part of it with putting or
Yeah,
with
this all
chipping is
this
like,
putting stuff, you take that away, I'm in on this ball striking stuff.
I don't look at the ball when I make contact, my head's out in front. So I think that's always kind of messed with me when I chip and putt, because it's a different, like I'm looking at the ball. Um, but yeah, I was always just like really good at driving the ball, even when I had like junior clubs, and like I was just, yeah, I could just drive the ball. That was, and then kind
Well,
of,
I to tee up the high school golf stuff, I think there's a couple things as your younger brother observing this. One of your best friends was Brett Lang, who was like
yeah,
the dude, right? He was the number one guy on the team, played at Vanderbilt, made the US Open, our first qualifier when it was at
yeah,
Shinnecock in 2008. Like,
2004,
absolute. Say again?
or sorry, '04.
Oh, 04, sorry. And I feel like you guys were really tight, and I feel like it kind of like, you are the people you hang out with. Like, I think your game elevated as you got it later into high school and started, you and Brett were spending like a lot more time together. I think you kind of saw, like, and his game was, you guys had similar games. I mean, he was better than you, but, like,
He
you
was just
guys
a
both,
much better version of my game. Yeah,
he just made a million pars. He hit every fairway, and TC kind of had the same thing going on. He was just like methodical. When I would go out and watch with my dad, I remember 2 tournaments. and you hit every freaking, it was automatic off the tee. It was so boring. And then you had that stupid like Futura putter, and you just would miss every 12 footer and
Well,
every
no, I
8
got the
footer.
Futura putter because I was missing every 12 footer with like the Odyssey,
Should like a
number
2
one
ball
that
or
I
something?
had.
Yeah.
And then, and it was just one of those things where like, I don't even think I was a bad putter. I just didn't know how to putt, if that makes
Well, they
sense.
just didn't go in. Like, it never looked bad. It was
Yeah,
just
I
like
know.
everybody expected you to miss it, and I think you were included. My dad and I were just like, "God, he missed another one," you know? "Come
Well,
on,
yeah,
he's gotta make."
Oh,
what's the mental
dude.
approach? Where is that how you're feeling? Are
Well,
you
there was a yeah, well, I don't know, it was just kinda one of those things where, like, maybe there was one summer where I think I was maybe in, like, 8th grade, where, like, I'd never broken I don't think I'd ever maybe it was going into 7th grade or 8th grade. I'd never, like, broken, like, 88 before. Then I went out and, like, I shot 87, like, 4 rounds in a row, and I would just, like I would go walk by myself, or I would go walk with one of the other juniors up at Dunwoody, or even, like, one of the like, I would play with whoever, right? There was a dude, Major Snow, I used to walk with all the time, Larry Steelman, like, all these
Hell
guys.
yeah.
I would just go walk with, like, all these, it didn't matter if you were 30, 50, 70, whatever, or I'd play by myself, and so, like, I shot 88, and I shot 87, like, 4 times in a row, and then I shot 86, and the next time I shot 85, and then I shot 84. And I was stuck at 84 for forever. And then one day I just like went out and I shot 35 on the front nine. I buried the first 2 holes, and I chipped in on the second hole. I still remember that. I was terrified. I was like, "Oh my god, this is crazy." I shot 41 coming in. I shot 76. I was like, "Oh my god, like that's crazy." But I've just never been able to. I never made a bunch of birdies. It was always just almost like it felt like the forbidden fruit, or it felt like I wasn't supposed to make birdies. You're supposed to make pars, and birdies were like an exceptional thing. And so I always just kinda hit the middle of greens, or like, yeah, I would hit a lot of fairways, and then and so I back then it was weird, like, I didn't really know how to scramble, and now it's the opposite. Now I feel like I know how to get up and down, or I know how to be gritty, or miss on the right side. I think a lot of it just came down to, like, course management too, like, I never had to be a good course manager because I was hitting so many fairways,
I legitimately I don't mean this even facetiously, like, I don't think I realized course management was a thing until I was,
right?
like, 27 years
Yeah,
old.
Yeah.
There was
exactly.
no high school golf coach who was like, "Hey, man, if you, like why don't you just not aim at the flag, and I think you're gonna shoot lower
Yeah.
scores." Like, nobody ever told me that. I
Or like,
truly was just
why don't
trying
you
to
just
hole
swing as
every
hard as you
shot.
can? Wait, wait, wait. I don't have to swing as hard as I can on the tee shot? What, I have driver in my hands. Aren't I supposed to hit it as far as I possibly can?
Yeah, huh, I never thought about that. Yeah, no, so very much same boat, and that's where it's like we were talking about it the other day, it's like, man, if you could go back to, when you're in 6th grade, 5th grade, whatever, like, God, think about how much better of a golfer you'd be, and it's
Yeah.
almost that's the biggest lesson to me almost is, like, if you're teaching a kid after you teach them kinda like, "Hey, man, here's a driver, swing away, hit it as hard as you can, we'll figure out where it goes later," and, you kinda get them used to hitting the ball and having fun. After that, it's like, "Alright, let's learn how to actually, like, play golf," because nobody ever taught me that until I was way too old
Man, dude,
for it to
I think that's the
matter,
thing.
you know?
Like, I learned how to I don't know, I just never learned how to play golf, or how to, like, the right way, I guess. And then I think something else that I struggle with, this is gonna sound, I don't know, just like I'm a total dipshit, but,
Please.
my game didn't travel all that well for a while too, where I really struggled at, like, muni courses, or if the greens weren't really smooth and fast, I truly didn't know how to putt. Like, I got used to playing on really, really fast bent greens at Dunwoody. And so, shorter stroke, and you just you're playing the ball off of slopes, and you're man, like when I went out there and I had to really get the ball to the hole, like focus on pace and all that, I just didn't I would get totally, totally lost, or I didn't know how to jam the ball in the back of the hole and just get it in. I would baby it around on the greens. That was one thing. I mean, Neil, I still remember. I don't know if you were at this one, but like there was a high school tournament up at I think this was junior year up at I think it was Fields Ferry up in Calhoun, and I think I hit 17 greens.
I think that's the event I was at. I think
Yeah, and
dad
like
and I
I think
drove
like
up.
you and dad like walked off after like
No,
13
no, we
holes, and you
walked
were
the whole round with you, and it was just like, dude, we were like, it was like the reaction Randy was getting in that Michelle Wee Pebble Beach video of like by the end of the round, we're like on the ground, like, no, you gotta make that. It's a 5-footer. Gotta make that one. Come on.
And like I could have shot 67. I mean, or I should have shot
It was a
67. Like
ball
if I just had an
striking
average putting
clinic.
day. And there was like same thing would happen in God, the region my senior year, like it was pouring rain on the front nine. And I ended up, you know, like Brian Jackson was playing ahead of me. He was like, man, I looked back, I was like, he's got to be at least 4 under. Like, and I think I shot like 38 on the front. Like, I hit 2 flag sticks from like 175 yards out. Like that's how good I was hitting my irons, and I just couldn't get the ball in the hole. I would just two putt everything.
Well, it was
And I mean there were times, Deej, where like I made like 28 pars in a row one time across 2 rounds. Just like just couldn't make birdies. I couldn't score on par fives, which was crazy because I was always pretty good with my 3-wood. But, like, I couldn't really get the ball, like, I couldn't figure out how to give myself closer birdie looks, I guess.
was it just mental or physical? Because like,
I
Neil,
don't
you
know,
you talked
again,
a
it was
lot about the kinda, like, mental hurdle of birdie putts, which again, like, is the most universal feeling ever, right? As much
Yeah,
as you wanna
birdies never
divorce.
became routine for me at a
Right.
young age, and that so TC, we have a similarity there. They always felt like an event, and they still kind of do.
yeah, it
Totally.
was like I was
That's
building
part
up
of the
in
problem.
myself of like, "Oh, man, birdie putt. Okay, cool." I
Yeah.
Yeah,
psych myself
I
out
better do
or
everything differently,
but
just try to
the
beat
yeah,
this
difference
or
guy.
I'm just
between
trying to make pars, so I'm just lag putting everything.
you and me though is you had so many more fucking birdie looks than I ever did. In high school, like you were hitting so many more greens. So that's I guess the only disconnect.
Which again is like, I don't know, kids golf on the brain for obvious reasons, but that's when you start looking at the Tiger par stuff and like the stuff that Earl Woods would do with Tiger, where he's like, "Hey man, we're gonna set a Tiger par for you today," which is basically like the
Yeah,
handicap system, but just constantly telling him, like, even though this putt's for 6, like this is a birdie putt, and just
Yeah,
getting him
yeah.
used to being 3 years old and just making 7 birdies around is, yeah, that's gotta have a pretty good positive snowball effect as you
yeah, I think
become
some of
old
it
old
too
wistful men like us
is
and
just
freak
like,
out every time
I
they have one.
guess, like, I wasn't just self-taught, I was self-directed as well,
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
totally.
Where, yeah, like, it's like, "Hey," or going back, like, I wish I could go back and, like, I practiced a lot, and I played even more. I like to play a lot, and I played. I would just practice on the golf course, but, like, I wish I knew how to practice,
100%. That's
and
exactly what I was gonna
that's
say. Is like,
especially
yeah, I
true
hit
with
a lot of
chipping and putting.
balls. I hit a lot of
Yeah.
balls, but I didn't practice.
Was I ingraining the wrong shit?
Right, yeah,
Possibly.
exactly.
Yeah.
Potentially solving the riddle. I also remember you did not like practicing your putting, so that might be a part of this too. TC loved to bang balls though. Loved it.
Watch
Loved
me
to hit balls.
watch me hit this 6 iron. Watch how many 6 irons in a row I can hit.
All right, TC, let me change gears here. What's a goal in golf that would make you the happiest to achieve? Like getting out of the past, maybe looking forward.
I mean, this is where when I saw that question on the agenda, my mind immediately went to, I wanna play every original Alistair McKenzie course in the world. Like,
Hell
it's
yeah.
not like, "Hey, I wanna go shoot 68." It's like, "No, I wanna go, I wanna go see these places." Like, that's for me, even, like I talked about it earlier, like with Atlanta Junior Golf, like I remember sitting down with mom in the dining room and being like, "All right, like you like you're almost entering a lottery, like you're going to their kind of orientation thing, and you would go to the rules seminar,
The rule
where the
seminar
lady would talk
with
about the rules of the rub of the
Beans. I
green."
think her name was Beans.
Means.
Straight up, I think that was the rules lady's name, if I remember correctly.
And, yeah, and it'd be like, etiquette and how to play and,
Well,
how
she'd
to
throw
take care of the
slides up.
course.
It'd be like
Yeah.
there'd be like a Volkswagen Beetle in the bunker, and there would a golf ball behind it. Like, what's the ruling? She'd like test the room. What's the ruling here? Do you have to hit it over? Do you get relief from this? And then it'd be like multiple choice, and be like that. And one of the options would be rub of the green. It's like, yep, that's the rub of the green. You got play it as it lies.
Yeah, so maybe that was where my disdain for TIO comes from too, Neil. Like, no, you
Exactly.
gotta play that as a lies. But no, like there was always that sense of like, man, where like how do I want to set up the schedule? Like what do I value? Which ones do I want to play? Do I want to play the places that I think I'm gonna play well at, or do I want to see new courses and use this as an opportunity to go play, some cool private courses that, I otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to play. So that still rings true today of like, hey, how can I whether it's how can I go to this part of the world that I've never been before and, use golf as the medium through which to do that, or yeah, I mean, I don't know, there's stuff that I think, yeah, I just like seeing new stuff, I guess, and I like because that for me is the magic of golf. Like, it's a big field with like they're putting shit in the way between you and the hole, and lakes and bunkers and mounds and ridges and all sorts of stuff, and like you're playing through and up and over stuff, and I don't know. To me, that's like the rusticity of it. I guess is the imagination and the creativity of golf. I think is like, oh my gosh, like there's no two golf courses in the world that are the same, and I think there's too many that are similar, and I want to go see the stuff that's really different. I
You
guess.
you seem like you don't, I mean, this is kinda speaks to your answer, but you don't get real hung up on score or how you played or that kinda stuff. When did that balloon pop for you, or when did that, like, go away, do you think?
Um, so after I kept playing during college, like I wouldn't play seriously, but like I still had the expectations that I had from when I was in high school of like, oh, like I'm gonna go out and shoot. Hey, like I'm trying to shoot even par every day, basically, which maybe that was my problem. I wasn't going out and trying to shoot 68. I was trying to go out, but I think after college, I came back to Atlanta. Didn't belong anywhere. There's no good public golf. There's not a lot of good public golf courses. There's a place called Echelon. Place called a Shasta. Just like find places around the city to play, or you know, like you kind of have to drive, like hop in your car. Like I played at Chastain at North Fulton a lot, but you would have to kind of hop in your car and go, either fight a really slow round of golf somewhere or fight traffic to go somewhere where there's kind of openings. But I remember like putting too much pressure on myself and be like every time I went out, like I was going out to shoot a score or to recapture this form you know that I had in the past, and it was just kind of joyless. So I just kind of quit for like 3 or 4 years. Just kind of stopped playing golf, and that was probably 2009 or 2010 to probably 2013, 2014, and then yeah, and then I kind of like I would go fish instead, or I would just go do other stuff, and I would go fly fish, and then between going up to Sweetens Cove, like starting to go up there and figure out like, oh my gosh, like architecture, right? Like
How
that was kind of a
how did Sweetens get on your radar for the first time?
few guys on Twitter, just like hey, you should come check this place out. Went up there, met Patrick Boyd, and yeah, there was this dude Dylan Mays who was a
Yeah.
complete
Yeah.
Twitter creature, and I don't know what was true and what wasn't with Dylan, I guess, or he was kind of a into tall tales or into,
He was a great
uh,
host though,
yeah, but
because
he was like
you
really
you
like,
brought me up too, and we had a blast.
yeah, and like we were the only people on the golf course, and you just like it's truly like holy shit, like like I didn't really know like why I liked it even. It was just like this is different, this is awesome, this is never seen stuff like this before. Like I'd never been to, I'd never really played other than playing some decent stuff around Atlanta, or like played Eastlake a few times. Like it's just really other than like Muirfield Village. I played there a couple times with our uncle, Springfield Country Club with Neil, and I think we got into a fist fight out there one time. We were at Springfield, but like going to those courses and being like, oh, like these are different, but not really understanding why or what made them. I just didn't know the
Lunken
architecture at all.
Airport in Cincinnati. You
Yeah.
bring up a good point, TC, which I actually find true when you talk to some pro golfers. If it almost feels like if you played competitive golf as a kid, or maybe I don't know. I'm gonna test this take out on you guys. You did, and we never once went on a golf trip as kids.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Yeah.
what you're saying, you just the only time like Southeastern Junior Golf went to like Tybee Island to play. You were playing
Yeah.
an event down there, but
Or
like
I'll go
other than
Sea Island,
traveling
like
for
I
a
went to Sea
tournament,
Island one time, or we go to Grand National in Alabama
yeah.
for,
But
Southeastern
you
tournaments.
never like, and you talk to a lot of pros now. You're like, have you ever played in Scotland? I'd say the majority of them say no. I've never,
Yeah.
yeah, never, unless they played in the Open
'Cause
Championship.
that's almost like a diversion or a distraction from chasing down your goals, but it's
Yeah,
also something where, like, I don't maybe it was just I would say probably the closest thing I ever had to, like, a golf mentor was our next door neighbor, Chris Marsh. Like, I would, like, skip school sometimes and, 7th or 8th grade or high school, like, go play a money game with, like, some dudes that he was he was in the software sales business, and he'd, like, bring me out and, like, we would go, like, just play, like, business golf, basically. So it was always but on that note, I never really actually, like, had a mentor in it either or, like, a guide. It was always just, like, kind of finding my own way through it, which I don't know, I think was cool. Like, I don't think that's like a failure of mom and dad. It was just kind of one of those things of like they just weren't really golfers.
It's interesting to hear you say, how much, like, the experience of golf, like, with this achievement question, because I'm the opposite. I'm almost like I didn't really get the competitive. I only played competitive golf through, like, 8th grade, ninth grade.
Yeah.
So for me, it's like, man, this is like a competitive outlet for me in my
It's and that's
current
not to
days.
say that that's not there, but it's just that's not as big a part of it. Like I still, like I love building around, like I love feeling like I maxed something out or I played as well as I possibly could have, or I saved shots here or there. I don't know. I've just kind of shut that part down because that was when I stopped enjoying golf. And when I really started enjoying it more was when a double on the second hole wouldn't derail my day or wouldn't, like, oh my gosh, like, and then you start playing with joy and you start making more birdies and that double becomes less meaningful. And so when I'm taking that approach of, hey, I'm out here and really enjoying the walk and walking around with your head up and noticing the architecture, what makes a golf course different or unique, like seeking that stuff out, then, then I start playing better golf, then and there too. So yeah, DJ, I think to your question, I think there's probably like my relationship with golf is like the more, I like to keep score. Like I still, I like to measure progress and all of that stuff. Like I like to play good golf, but it's just a matter of keeping that in proportion of like when I go on a trip, like when Dan Horner and I went to Scotland last summer, like there's some days where like, man, you know what? Like rock up at Western Gales and like I want to shoot a good score. I think I shot 72 out there and like it was blowing 30. Like that felt like, man, like I accomplished something today. And then the next day we went out to this place, Irvin, that was like really weird, cool course that, was kind of in scruffy condition. And I think I shot probably 82 and I had more fun out there doing that because it was, I felt like I was seeing something brand new and it was unexpected and it kind of knocked my socks off. So
Yeah, that's really well said, and I it's funny, like, hearing both of you guys describe it, I feel like I kinda get stuck sometimes between the 2 things that you're describing, where on one day I can feel much more like UTC and I'm here to look at the trees and I'm here to notice
yeah.
why they put this bunker there instead of there. And then on the next day, Neil, I can feel like you where it's like, man, I'm working towards a handicap goal for the whole year and this is a rep and I can't waste any opportunity and I just end up feeling very stuck in the middle. So again, it's like
Well, every round's better for me when I play better,
of
I can
course.
still enjoy it when
I
I don't
know.
play well, but it's, I'm usually there to compete with myself, but I appreciate deeply TC's perspective on it.
Well, the other thing too is I like to, even if it's, you can draw certain things out at different times of the round too, or even if you're not having a great round, man, like when you rock up to, the fifth tee at Royal Melbourne West, or you rock up to the 17th hole at Royal Melbourne West, or like we're playing the 10th hole at Jockey Club, or just hey, I know like the sixth hole at this place, La Cumbre, that we just played out in Argentina, like it's a 66-yard par three. It was the 12th hole there, and it's like, holy shit, like this is why I got on that plane and flew 4 or 5 thousand miles to come down here and hit this shot. And I'm gonna lock in and I'm gonna do it. And then you start getting to that place, the road hole, right? Or trying to make a birdie on the 18th hole at the old course, regardless of what happened in that round prior. It could have had a great day, could have had a not great day. Like you can leave on a good note and like almost getting competitive in certain moments of the round, or even let's say you're having a match. Like I don't know, I love like trying to win, not necessarily like it doesn't have to be me shooting a great score or even hey, you know what? I'm not gonna get frustrated. I didn't play well these first 8 holes, but I'm gonna climb my way back in this match, you know?
But I think it's a funny illustration of, we had like a what would you ask the genie for question on here. And it's funny
Yeah.
that like a lot of people would have very performance based answers, right? Like I need to improve I need to get rid of the two-way miss so that I can improve my scoring average for the year or whatever. But I'm guessing yours would probably be something more like experience based.
No, I just put chipping.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't lead the witness, Deej. Don't do
Okay,
that.
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, no, I mean that like the genie thing, like we did that a little bit with Greg Rose, and some of that's on like, I've got the genie. I just gotta like actually listen to the genie.
Well, it's funny. The chipping stuff's funny. You said it to Dr. Greg, like Max Homa got a little upset with you. Like, dude, he told you the same thing I told you like 4 years ago. It's like, yeah, but Max, you got to tell me like every
Yeah.
like 5 days. I'm
Spieth,
just gonna
I talked to
forget.
Spieth about it. Yeah. And it's truly one of those things of like, because that seeps into the rest of my game of like, if I don't know, I start playing defense, right? Where I think that's part of the thing of like, didn't make a bunch of birdies growing up. I make a lot more birdies now. And I think I'm a better golfer now. I understand the golf swing better. I understand contact and shot shapes and just how to get around the golf course more. But I think I was just very raw back then. But I think even today, some of that mentality of like, you know, I just feel like if I'm not chipping it well, I start, I start playing in the middle of the greens. I just start playing that same style of golf I played growing up of, man, I got to hit every fairway and every green to play a good round of golf today. Whereas, you know, knowing like, and I've gotten over that hump a few times, and sometimes it's in unexpected spots, or a lot of the time it is when like when I've gone, 3, 4, 5 under par, and like that's been when I don't have expectations that day. And I just start playing offense and pin my ears back and don't worry about the downside risk. Or, hey, what happens if I don't pull this shot off? Well, then pull the next one off, right? Um,
It's a hard place
See,
so
see,
yeah,
hard
the
place to get
chipping
into.
thing is
so
definitely there. And I think some of that stems from like just growing up on, I was just never a good chipper. And growing up on Bermuda and living here in Florida, like it's just not an easy surface to chip off of with,
For sure.
just tight, wet, grainy Bermuda.
I think the audience is going to be disappointed that your one achievement was that you're not making. Is it 6 birdies in a row more often?
It was 5,
5, I
right?
think.
5
5 birdies
birdies
in
in
a
a
row,
row
more
more
often.
often.
Maybe the best
Yeah.
thing I ever read into the record for the Trap Drunk Goals podcast. I need to make 5 birdies in a row more often.
I think I've only
Whoa!
done
What
it
more often?
I
What are
think
you
I've done it
talking about?
twice in my life. So, again, just more
Just need to
often,
do that more often.
increasing regularity, yeah.
What would you from a golf course architecture perspective, what is the biggest difference between yourself now and yourself in high school? Or what would you tell yourself in high school to kinda change their mind on stuff?
Golf course architecture?
Yeah.
I don't think I knew anything. Like, I knew I don't know, I
But,
kinda
like,
knew
there's a
what I liked, but I don't think I knew why I liked it. Or
that yeah.
I just hadn't seen anything, right? It was just a matter of like, I don't think you have to go see a bunch of, like, top 100 golf courses. Like, there's all sorts of, like, you know, good architecture that's, it was just a matter of, like, understanding, oh, like, what the full spectrum of things even is, right?
Well, I think
Of
that's why Sweetens is so special
Yeah.
because it's so
Yeah,
on the nose with some of these architectural concepts. It's like
yeah,
right in your face of like, oh, I didn't know you could do this. It's like,
yeah.
yeah, well, some of these older guys were doing it a long time ago, and you just never saw it, kind of
Yeah,
thing.
or, like, you've never played links golf before, and you've played a bunch of parkland tree-lined stuff with long rough and bunkers as the defense, and it's like, all right, or, hey, they're, 400 yard, 440-yard par fours, and there's not a lot of variety, and it's just the concept that golf can be fun and different and outside this box. Because I think the box of growing up in Atlanta in the 90s and early 2000s was like, oh man, like there's a bunch of shitty golf courses. There's a
You
bunch of stuff
have
that
to have
was,
houses on golf courses.
yeah, there
Like
there was the
that's
like it's good land. But it's like, man, there's a bunch. Most of the stuff was built between like 1960 and 1995 or 2008, and everything was a real estate play. Everything was built, like I think the guy that designed our course growing up, Willard Bird, not a bad architect, but like there just wasn't a lot of great design going on. The the first thing was houses.
Yeah.
That was primary
Yeah, not so much
reaction
at
number one.
DCC though. I think it's actually a rare example
Yeah.
of like it's not surrounded by houses.
But even
You
like
know,
Cherokee's not
yeah.
like we played Cherokee. I played Cherokee 50 times. There's 36 holes over there, Cherokee Town and Country Club in Atlanta. Tom Fazio did it in the early 90s. There's no houses on the course. I I don't think out of 36 holes out there, I don't think I can remember more than 2 holes. And I have a pretty photographic memory for golf holes. And that's something that's changed a lot too of like played a ton of golf all over the state of Georgia growing up, and I can't really remember that many holes. And then as soon as I started paying attention to architecture, paying attention to where I was playing, and and that being the reason for why I was out there, I can remember most holes of most golf courses I've played since 2010 or so.
Yeah.
That's flipped for me too, TC. I don't know, maybe because we're talking about golf a lot more. You're
Yeah,
almost looking for ammo at this
yeah.
point.
For sure.
Something else too was when we moved to Boston. It was the same thing of like that I was saying of like you don't have to go play a bunch of top 100 golf courses. I went out and played this course called Red Tail out there that Brian Silva did. There was a place called Shining Rock, um,
George
Shaker Hills,
George
like Brian
Wright.
Silva stuff. That's like yeah, George Wright. So there's the Silva stuff that's like new age spin on like classic templates and designs and stuff, which I didn't even really know what those were at the time. I was like, man, this is dope. And then going and playing Sandy Burr or George Wright or South Shore Country Club was a Styles of Van Cleek, I think. Like they're just seeing different old school New England stuff. I remember I went up and played Myopia, and the New England PGA did like a cool series where you could go play, different private clubs and stuff. So kind of seeing, oh my God, like this is like Springfield Country Club. This is like the stuff that I really like. And then I was hooked. Like when I started playing that stuff, it was like, holy moly, this is seeing the world in color, you
Well,
know?
what was your process for, like, educating yourself or learning more about all of the architects and trends and eras and all of that stuff?
I bought the Confidential Guide. That was one of them. Like Tom Dokes. I got all four things of those. Anatomy of a Golf Course, hanging out on like Golf Club Atlas, even just Google Earth. Like just but yeah, that was kind of and then just going and seeing stuff and playing stuff and talking to people. Like, whether it's Wolfie or reading some of Shackelford's books. Like Zach was awesome for me of like getting to know him
Zach Blair.
2017, 2018, like kind of on the when I really started getting into this stuff. Cause it's not like I guess that's part of it is like I was never into architecture prior to, maybe 20, like really till I played Sweetens Cove and realizing like, holy shit, that there's just all sorts of different stuff out there. Or realizing that looking back on like Neil and I watched a lot of golf on TV growing up. Like our parents weren't huge golfers per se. We always watched golf on Saturdays and Sundays. We always, especially CBS or Florida Swing or West Coast Swing or whatever. We always watched golf, and maybe that was the Tiger effect, where we would play like man when Tiger played Colonial and playing against Sergio, or there's just going back to those days. I think there's very much a now looking back, I realize why I liked certain tournaments and I didn't like certain tournaments as much.
What about certain players? Not non-Tiger division, I mean, who was, like, your guy?
Spencer Levine. I mean,
You can't
truly, like he's like my
Are you
favorite
serious?
favorite golfer of all time. Spencer Levine.
Well, that's like post college. Like, what about growing up? Because you're like the same
Yeah, well,
age as Spencer
that,
Levine.
that wasn't Spencer. No,
That can't
Spencer's
work here.
Spencer's 40, but Neil, you talk about that 2004 US Open at Shinnecock.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that is like Brett was the first alternate for
I
that.
never put 2 and 2
That was
together on Brett being an alternate there and Spencer just balling out, and those 2
yeah.
things
I
happening the
think I
same
truly
week.
think if Brett got into the field, he would have like made the cut. And Furyk hadn't played in like I don't know 18. Like he had surgery. Duval hadn't played in like 2 or 3 years,
Yeah,
and he ended
Duval
up
didn't withdraw.
nobody
And
withdrew, and Brett's just sitting there at the end of the range with a dick in his hand. Like man, I can't even go play a practice
but
round out
then one
here.
of them withdrew after like 3 holes. That's what really stung.
Yeah, and but like that was just the sickest tournament just in general too. Like the carnage on 10 and 11. They lost the golf course. That was like
It's
peak
gone.
Mike Davis. It was
That
just,
was a
like,
very
fucking awesome.
TC coded US Open. That was
Yeah.
radicalizing a young
All right,
TC.
but that's your senior year. That's 2004. You got to give us
No,
something
I know, and then
earlier
there's
on.
all these stories about, like, him getting into fist fights with his dad on the court, and it was just like, that just wasn't my experience growing up of, like, having a, overbearing parent that was, like, trying to get the most out of you. That was the opposite of my experience, right? And then just watching him, like, in the early days of No Laying Up, like, when he played, like, he turned pro, and then he almost won it like, the week after Kyle Stanley choked it away at Torrey Pines. Spencer's got, like, a six-shot lead going to the final round at Phoenix, and he loses, and just but it was like, I like guys that are
God, and he
like,
just gets
there's a
referenced every year when Phoenix comes around. He's like, "I
yes,
don't know, look so f not not so fast. You remember
and
Spencer
there's a I
Levine?"
don't know, he's just it's like a homemade swing, and
The
God, I thought
SIGs.
you were working a bit with
it's
Levine, and now it's like, no, he's
No.
like,
no,
Oh,
dude,
yeah.
it's, like, deeply psychological, like, he's, like, he's great, like, I like golf courses that feel like they're greater than some of their parts, and I like golfers that feel like they're greater than some of their parts, where, like,
Who else is on
they
that list?
just
Postman?
yeah, JT Poston's up there for sure.
pound
And
for
just
pound.
guys that, like, man, like, they really gotta dig deep to go win, but, like, the fact that that's possible, right? And I don't know, they're getting through on guts and guile and all that. Weirdly, like, I always liked Kenny Perry growing
Hell
up.
yeah.
Probably
Talk about a
maybe
guy that
that's
made a ton of birdies. A
For real.
well,
ton
made a
of
ton of
birdies.
birdies, but, like, because he was an excellent, excellent ball striker.
Yeah.
I still remember when Kenny Perry didn't go to the British he was, like, qualified for the British Open, he was just like, "Yeah, I'm just not gonna go." It's wild. Woody Austin would be another one that fits in that mold.
What? Fuck are we
Seriously,
talking about?
just
That's
like fucking
great.
characters, man. I liked Rich Beam when he kinda Johnny Miller was up there. Like, I always liked Johnny as a player, kinda like looking back on his career. Dustin Johnson
Of course.
was up there, maybe somebody that didn't squeeze everything out, but, like, man,
Might
I
be
just
it
liked
might
the
be
way
the
that he
opposite. It might
played.
be like, "No, you got all the tools, man. You just
Yeah.
whether you wanna use them this week or not, I guess is kinda up to you."
I mean, I was a Tiger guy, love Tiger, who didn't? Let's
Randy
say
didn't, for
yeah.
one.
But then, like, I don't know, I liked Phil too. Like, I just, there was or there's certain guys that I've kinda done an about face on where, like, I hated them growing up, and now I love, like, Monty.
Yeah.
Like, Neil and I fucking hated Monty,
I know.
and now
That's one of those that I'm like, "God, if I only knew what I do now when I was a kid,
Yeah.
I would have been the
exactly.
biggest Monty guy ever."
Yeah. Or I feel like I don't know, I feel like I would've thrived as a fan, like, in the late '70s
Yeah.
into the '80s, like Ray Floyd. Weirdly, he's a nervous ball of energy and everything, but the way that he plays golf, Billy Horschel.
For
I've
sure.
always thought that, like, Billy Horschel, if when I was 14 years old and I had all the persistence and grit and determination in the world and put everything in my being behind it, which, like, I didn't even get 5% of the way there with that. Like, Billy Horschel would have been like my absolute that would have been like my final form if everything broke right.
That's
Just the way that he plays and even just physical stature. Like, it's just very similar player. I think it's just a matter of, like, man, is the putter going to get hot? Like, he's always in play. He's always hitting his irons pretty well. Even looking way back, like Ray Floyd, like, man, I like guys like I would have been a huge Arnie guy if I would have been, back in the day. Didn't necessarily jive with my game, right? Of, like, hitting a bunch of fairways and stuff. Henry Cotton speaks to me, dude.
sure. Of course. Took the
James
words out of
Brain.
my
I
mouth.
don't know. I like guys that are just like that have flair and character and
Hagen?
kind of playboys off the course and Tom Simpson, shit like that. I don't know.
Well,
Renaissance
Deej, we
man.
gotta save enough
I
time for the
know,
main
I
event
know.
here,
You
okay?
you read
So,
my mind. I feel like we gotta do a couple 10-round splits. Let's warm up.
Well,
Let's get in the warm-up pool a little bit
Deej,
here.
I was gonna say couple of least favorite golfers of all time
Yeah.
because that was on the list too. Like Zach Johnson, straight, and like Neil can speak to that. Like when
yeah,
Zach
TC's
Johnson,
never
When
been
did
a
that
big
start?
fan
Did
of
that start
Zach.
with, like, the Masters?
he started when he won the fucking Bell South Classic.
Oh, sure. I forgot. Even closer to home.
And it was like Ben Crane and Zach Johnson. They just won the Bell South. I was like, what? I don't. I just
That's
don't like his
dog.
swing. Don't like what he's got going on, which is interesting because Zach Johnson
Kinda seems like what you were
probably
just
greater than the sum of
describing.
his
Yeah,
parts.
exactly.
Yeah.
which is why we all loved him when we were growing up. Just like, see, that guy can do it, man. He doesn't have anything you don't have, and you just got to
Yeah.
work hard.
But
There
I don't
are
know, all of his little yeah, I don't know why the Billy stuff resonates with me versus Zach's brand of being anal and, like the Zach Johnson, Mike Weir brand of being anal and meticulous
yeah.
and all that doesn't resonate with
This might
me.
just be cheese related.
Yeah, like maybe it's because like Billy's always dressed really well.
Yeah, yeah,
Zach hasn't,
yeah.
Jeff Maggart would be up there as well.
Really?
Just
Yeah.
anytime Jeff Maggart was on a leaderboard, like Neil, my dad, even my mom, like all of us would just be like, "Oh God, this
Well, yeah,
What a
because
sucks."
he
weird guy
balled out
to
of the Port
hate.
Championship at East Lake a couple times. He was kinda always just like he was
Yeah.
good. He just wasn't exciting.
Sure.
He just like never even like there was just no emotion whatsoever. So
TC, I feel like I remember you being a big Hal Sutton guy.
was I? I don't
I feel like you were,
I
but
don't
maybe I'm
I
just
don't
making
Alimony.
that up.
that doesn't ring a bell. And guys, I would say we're getting close there with Tom Kim
Hmm.
as far as like him being just fake juice, like just least favorite of all time.
We're monitoring that. All right. Well, one game that we love.
Lorena Ochoa on the positive side
I
too.
thought you were gonna just
She
put her
was
on the
great.
negatives. I was like, God.
No, no, she
Uh,
was awesome.
no,
Like the quiet confidence and the way she did things on her own terms and then just walked away at like the top of the game. It's
that's kind of
whoa.
one of those not enough people talk about
Yeah.
segments waiting to happen there.
And that was right when like, that was right when I was getting really, really into golf and like she was great when I was trying to learn what greatness was kind of thing.
All right, well let's move on because we want to leave plenty of time for the main
Yeah.
event, as you said, Neil. Before we get there, let's do a little. We like to play the 10 round split game, so we're just going to throw
Okay.
out a couple courses. This is one of your favorites, I know. How would you split up 10 rounds between these two courses, Neil? You want to go first, or you want to just each throw one out?
I'll go
Okay,
first. Sand Hills versus Bandon Trails.
God.
knew you were going to ask me that.
Um,
Knew I should have called on Neil.
Probably go 7-3 Sand Hills.
Wow. I mean, you reference trails more than any other course on the
I
planet.
think he said it
I
might
mean,
be the
Sand
best,
Hills is like
public golf course in the country.
Bandon Trails doesn't exist if not for Sand Hills.
Well said. Shinnecock versus National.
Is it just the round of golf?
Oh, that's a great question. No, we're throwing the whole day.
Well, like,
It's
are
like
we
the
going to
whole
Shinnecock in the
experience.
morning and then we can go do the whole deal at National as well?
No, no, you have to
No,
play both separate days at
yeah.
separate courses.
Separate days. Oh, okay.
You can only go to one property once per day, but you get 10 days.
10. Okay. I'd probably go 6-4 National.
I think I'd ride with you on that, TC. All right. I got Fisher's Island versus a Hoopy Match Club.
Man, I really, really like Ohoopee. I'm gonna go 9-1 Fishers.
Wow.
Whoa.
Fishers
Wow.
rules.
Whoa.
Like
Whoa.
Fishers is like one of my favorite golf courses in the world. Like I would drop everything I'm doing right now to go play Fishers. It
How
and
about that?
fly like it's 2 flights. You gotta hop on a boat. Like it's not easy to get to, and I love it. It's awesome.
God, I
I've been
almost
like I'm so grateful to Zach's taken me there twice, I think, and I've been with Eric Stepanian from Flyers Club once before too, and it's a special, special day. There's something intoxicating about getting on a boat to go to the golf course, and then the golf course is just like 17 of the 18 holes are on the water, and oh, it's incredible.
I, I'm trying to decide whether to give you something to really speak to one of your platforms or if I should just make you writhe in one here. I'll give you let's do a writhe. Let's do Tara Edie versus the Royal Melbourne Composite Course.
Well, I haven't played the composite,
Okay.
so I can only imagine what the composite would
Then
be.
we'll say the West Course then.
Okay. Oh God. I mean, you're getting to the heart of like my top 10 list there. I think it's probably 5-5, man.
I mean, what better compliment?
How about
Yeah.
that? All right. Last one for me, TC. I'm going to go Crystal Downs versus the Jockey Club.
Very different courses because Crystal Downs is like not an easy walk. And Jockey Club's like the easiest walk you could possibly have.
I'm just trying to make you,
Just trying to get your
split up
McKenzie
the
bet.
good
Yeah.
doctor.
Or I was gonna say like Crystal Downs versus Prairie Dunes would be a really interesting one too. I think Crystal Downs versus Jockey, I'd say probably 7-3 Crystal Downs,
Okay.
Okay. I'm trying to think
which is
we
kind of a compliment to Jockey because I don't know, Jockey. I really like flat golf courses.
yeah.
What like you can kind of see it was really interesting seeing like what Mackenzie did. Like every Mackenzie course I've played has great land, and seeing what he did on a dead flat piece of property was really fascinating.
Alright, we haven't done anything in Scotland yet. Let's do we were just talking about this the other day. Let's do Dunbar versus North Berwick.
Mm. I'm going 6-4 Dunbar.
Okay. Honestly, I was worried you were gonna maybe the gap would be even bigger.
No,
So
I
that's
don't.
good to
North
hear.
North Berwick's great. I just don't. I don't know. I just think there's other places in Scotland that speak to me more than North Berwick.
Sure. All right, Neil, a quick break in the action. Why don't you tell us what's going on at No Laying Up? What should the people know right now?
That's right. The call's coming from inside the house. I have three things to keep track of. First, weekly digest. Sign up for our email newsletter. You can go to newsletter.nolayingup.com. We have the wider newsletter that goes out every Thursday or Friday, but we also have a weekly digest, which
Mm.
is kind of a roundup of all the NLU stuff going on with some, I don't know, original content in there too, like best Slack comment of the week. Deej, you're usually a leader in the clubhouse for one of those, you and TC. But if you go to newsletter.nolayingup.com, you can update your email preferences, sign up for either the weekly digest or the newsletter or both. That's fantastic. We also have a pro shop promo going on right now. That is spend $75 and get a free NLU Footjoy winter beanie. Shout out to Footjoy, also the sponsor of this episode. You have to add the beanie to your cart for the promo to work and plug in the code freezing, all caps, freezing. It is still cold here in New York. That promo ends March 2nd, Sunday, March 2nd. So if you're listening to this on March 3rd, just go check out the pro shop, store.nolayingup.com. We're a
Sh-
small
s-
shop.
The shop will still
Check
be
us
there.
out.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And third, we are still soliciting voicemails for our mailbag episode this Sunday. And that is Sunday, March 2nd. So if it's March 3rd, you can still leave a voicemail if you want. The voicemail listener line is 1-833-330-8725. Press 1 for the NLU voicemail box. If you'd like to leave a message for the trap draw idiots, I'm included in that. You can press 2. So that's 1-833-330-8725. Okay, let's get back to TC.
All right, well there you have it. Let's get to the crown jewel of these episodes.
TC, we only had 10 minutes. I don't know if that's enough time. I told Deej we needed an hour for this, but your top
Oh,
10 courses
Top 10 favorite courses in the world. Neil, can you speak to how difficult this was to put together?
is it's very difficult, but it's your list, and you don't have to rely on any confidential guides. You speak your truth, brother.
okay. I'm gonna start off with Ely,
It's number 10.
At 10.
number 10. Yeah, Ely's. It's got to be on the list for me. That is, I don't know. I think I've played it 4 times now, and I've played it in a variety of conditions. I played it in gale force winds and a cloudy day. I've played it on a couple sunny days, and it's resonated each and every time. 16 par fours, 2 par threes,
Just
and
like
normally I would hate
depending on
that.
the wind, that like a bunch of them are
Yeah, it's
gettable, a
like the
bunch of
most.
them can't
There's
be,
maybe more variety out there than anywhere I've played in the States, at least. So yeah, I would say Ely's up there, and James Braid. I love the James Braid stuff I've played has been really, enthralling. So yeah, Ely.
Number
Number
9.
9, I'm gonna go with Pasatiempo.
Hey.
This
Almost
was on Neil's
yeah.
Yeah.
list. This is the first Mackenzie course I ever played, and really I think the first great golf course I ever played.
That's a good
And
Nice.
distinction.
Yeah, I kind of
um,
was same bucket, TC. Just always, and it's always stuck with me for just
yeah,
12 years. You're always like, man, that place was still to this day. You're like, I love that place.
yeah, I think just even having the ability to like, oh, you know what, like no, like, yeah, it's pricey, but like you can book a tea time there tomorrow, and that kind of set me off. Like after Sweetens, I remember talking to Rob actually. I was like, "Where should I go see?" He's like, "Oh, you should go to Pasatiempo." So I went to Pasatiempo, and like we went there on my bachelor party. I don't know, it's just good vibes, and Like the back nine out, like, front nine's cool. There's some awesome stuff, but the back nine's just the energy out there is spectacular.
Hard to beat. Number 8.
Number 8, I'm gonna say Brora.
Love it.
Um, and I think I love the Highlands.
God, I could have done Brora
Um,
Dornick. That would have been a squeaker too.
yeah. Well, that's the thing. I almost associate, you just kind of associate them together, and it's like I think that's one of the best 36 hole days in golf is the two of those. And but it's one of those things where like a lot of people go up and they play Dornick every time, and then they won't play Brora every time. I think for me, it's like I'll go up and play Brora every time, and then I need to go play Golspie and Tane and Fort Rose and Rosemarkie and all that stuff. But I think Brora is like that's a center of gravity for me, where just when you're kind of going north from the clubhouse on after you get through like second, third hole, and you're going all the way out to that far point, and there's the big monument to Sutherland out on the mountain there, and there's just you feel like you're at the end of the earth, and that's remarkable. So, yeah, Barora. Let's see here, and then actually right next to it, I'm going to put Dornick.
That's number 7.
Yeah, it's number 7 because I think that's those two places are. There's just something special about the Highlands, and it's not that hard to get to, but
Yeah.
you feel like you're away from everything. So, yeah, that's 7. Gosh, 6,
I
I'm
feel
gonna
like TC's
go
got a big draft board.
I know.
Like,
I do,
there's
I
not
do.
actually a list right now. He's just got a bunch of names spread
No, I
out
do.
on like a
Yeah.
jam board.
6, I'm gonna go with Royal Lytham.
I didn't see that coming.
Um,
I didn't either.
it's kind of the first I've only played it once. I've loved watching the opens there. I just think that again, I love a flattish golf course or a small piece of property that feels like they extracted the most out of it. And similar to like National, it's like a bunker museum where like there's like 240 bunkers out there. And that was the first time I've ever played like you can play that style. Like there's a style of golf in the States that's like the Pete Dye kind of technical mogul skiing style of golf. But at Lytham, I felt like it was almost like that to me on that trip we played, that was the first links trip I ever took, and it was like West Lanks and Birkdale and Hoylake and Wallacey, but Lytham spoke to me in a way that was different than the other ones, and it's not next to the ocean. I don't know, and it's funky. It starts with a par 3, and, it just like, that day, I was like, "You know what? I'm buckling up. I'm going to battle. I'm gonna shoot a good number here. I'm gonna" like, I was like, "I'm gonna par the last 4 holes just because I know Adam Scott wrecked his rig coming in," and, there was just a sense of accomplishment after, like, feeling like I navigated the chessboard out there.
There's something to be said too for maybe this is why I like playing, in that part of the world so much, but when you're not losing balls, you don't feel like you're playing
Yeah.
as bad, right? Because I'm hearing you describe like the technical skiing of the United States is just like, oh yeah, cool, that's in the water. No, that's
Yeah.
out of bounds. That's out of bounds. That's in the water. And that's so deflating, even if you can hit the ball the exact same way over there, but it's like, oh no, you're gonna find it. It's fine. You're just like it might take you 2 shots to get out of that bunker, and you just
Yeah.
don't ever get as down on yourself when you're still in play, you know?
Reaction from like a local Sherpa on like, oh my God, is that OB? No, no, it's not.
No, you're
But it
fine.
was like,
I mean,
like
you're gonna make
don't
a
no,
triple, but
no, no, you'll
it's
find the
fine.
ball, but no, you're totally fucked there.
Yeah.
All right,
Totally.
top 5.
Man, this is where it gets really, really difficult because, like, the old course is gonna be in there.
Sure,
I gotta get Terra Edie in
of
there.
course.
Hey, let's just focus on 5, TC.
I know. Well, it's like, all right, like Royal Melbourne East, Royal Melbourne West, Royal Adelaide, Kingston Heath, like those are fuck, man. Those are
This is your cross to bear.
This is you know
Fisher's
what this
Island,
is?
Springfield Country
You know what
Club.
this is? This is the chickens coming home to roost for all the times we've walked off. You're like, that's a top 5 golf course in the world. We're like, all right, time to check
No,
out
no,
that
no,
scoreboard, TC. Let's hear it, my man.
but I think some of it is
My
like, hey,
Lytham caught me off
I
guard.
know.
favorite is different. Yeah, I think about Lytham all the freaking time, man. But yeah, like the fact that, Pinehurst number 2 is not gonna be on this list. Bandon Trails isn't gonna be on this list. Woking won't be on this list. I love
Woking is not
Woking.
walking through that door, Deej.
I mean, and some of them are like, I just haven't had enough bites at the apple yet either to, consider that as part of my favorites.
All right, no
Like Shore
filibuster.
Acres
What's
is
5,
is on there.
TC?
5 will be Kingston Heath.
Okay.
Okay.
Good
Love
It was the
answer.
first
No arguments
first
Yeah.
from us.
first sandbelt course I ever played. Again, going back to that theme of like kind of greater than the sum of its parts. Of just
Flat.
I don't feel like I've ever walked off. Like I've played Kingston Heath what, 4 times. I've never walked off a course each and every time that I've played more than once and been like, oh, like I immediately want to go back to the first tee because I would do things so much differently than I did at this round.
Yeah.
So much differently than I did the round before that and the round before that. It's just like this choose your own adventure thing where you start getting like, man, I'm doing the right stuff. I'm doing the right stuff. And then, no, I shouldn't have done
Ah,
that.
why
You
did I
know,
do that?
yeah, it's the perfect blend of like strategy and artistry, I think,
Here, here.
and just, execution.
Number 4.
Number 4.
He's in physical pain right now.
It's like this exercise snuck up on him, Beach.
No, yeah.
You can't put me on the spot, guys. This pod's been on the counter for a month.
I've been working on this for a month. That's the crazy part. It changes every single day.
Truly the
you know?
NFL draft. The ding,
Like some days,
you're
like
on the clock.
I could wake up and be like LACC's in like my top 3, and some
Sure.
days it's not even in my top
All right. Well, we
25.
can put an asterisk on this and say it's
This
Yeah.
is
you
just
know
as
this
of today,
as
February
of
13th,
yes.
4:30 Eastern.
And some
Number
of it's like,
4.
hey, how do I separate out like the experience we had that one day, like at Royal Adelaide? Like that was one of the most magical days I've ever had on a golf course. But like, I don't even know if I want to go back there because what
Right.
if it
Just
doesn't live
ruin
up
it.
to that?
Yeah.
You know?
With the 4th pick, the Cleeks select.
I'll say Royal Melbourne East.
Whoa.
Whoa.
I mean, I feel like that really cements a couple spots in the top 3 then, I would think.
Yeah. Um, yeah, Royal Melbourne East. I just think it's the and then number 3 is Royal Melbourne
That's what I
West.
was gonna say.
Like
Wow, look at
it's just the
Australia. Clean
perfect
sweep from
it's the
5 to
perfect
3.
complement to one another where like the stuff that you don't get on West, you get on East, and then stuff you the scale and the grandness on West. I don't know. There's just perfect counterpoints to one another. It's freaking awesome, man.
So you know what, TC? You know what? I will throw you a bone
I was
here.
thinking the
And why don't
same.
we just say the Royal Melbourne Composite Course is number 4, and we'll throw
Yeah.
you a bone for
Bonus
the
pick.
top 3. How
That
about
is
that?
massive, massive. Because I mean,
So many directions
I'm
it
trying to
could go.
trade back and get acquire more picks
Well, you
here.
just
You might
did.
not even have to go for it this year, you know? This might be a rebuilding year.
Yeah,
we got you
yeah.
one right there. Top 3.
I'm gonna say third will be Cypress Point.
Sure.
It's just like
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
freaking really good. And like
The
if
fan base loves
I would
that
say
thing.
before I played Cypress, like Fisher's probably would have been on the top 10 list. But if I'm just going for that sort of style of golf and everything, I don't know. Cypress is just
How about
the
that?
best
Goes
walk in golf.
9-1 with a hoop. He doesn't make his top 10.
It's so sick.
That is truly that's so good.
And then it's
Number two,
really a question of, are we taking it at 2 or 1 here?
we're going we're going Tara Edie at 2,
Love it.
Then I think I know what's 1.
the old course.
Yeah. I think that's great. Exhale,
God, I
TC.
honestly thought you were gonna say Sand Hills.
Oh, it's not
No,
even in the top 10.
Not even
it's
in
not
the
even in
top
my top
10.
10 right now.
Might be
I
the
need to
best,
get back.
probably the
I
best
need
course
to.
in America, but not necessarily in the top
I
10.
mean,
Yeah.
I truly Sand
You
Hills is
said
probably the one
favorite.
you
You didn't
rave
say
about.
best. Splash World didn't make it. I thought about putting Springfield Country Club on there. I thought about putting Essex County Club on there.
No Cal Club.
Uh, like Shiskin.
Sure.
There's so much stuff that I need to see in England.
God, TC's not gonna sleep well tonight, Deej.
God, I bricked it, man. I just locked up.
The old course
Iona,
number
which isn't
1.
even really a golf course, like that could have gotten on there. Pinehurst number 2, Cow Club, Bisbee,
Old head.
Of course.
Gearhart. I freaking love Gearhart, man. Like,
Nothing in Ireland even sniffed it.
no, not. I would say nothing in Ireland. I think if we did a second top 10, like I know you love Carn. Carn and Sligo are probably my 2 favorites over there. But like I've never played County Down. I've never played Port
Not
Rush.
Lahinch, Ballybunion.
I really like Lahinch, but I don't know. I feel like I'm on kind of the tourist track there, where like there's buses in the parking lot. And it's just
Yeah.
not, like I don't know. part of this too is like, man, like my favorite,
Well,
there's
that's cause that no, the experience matters. Being
Yeah.
far away, clearly, that's what this list is for. There's I'm
yeah.
not criticizing you.
I
I'm
think
I
surprised.
mean,
all of these lists
there's almost
are
like a tomb. There's almost like a Tomb of the Unknown Soldier on my top 10 list of like, I don't know, like the next golf course I play,
Mm.
right? Of like,
that'd have been interesting
man, like I want
pick to
to, I
be
don't
named
know,
later.
The unknown soldier. That is a Jack Reacher. I love that.
Oh, listen, all of these
yeah.
lists are living documents, TC, and
Yeah,
I
we can
Yeah.
revisit
you're
TC.
I
welcome
mean,
to
like
update
Deej,
it
it
at
was
any
like
point.
the Argentina trip. Like La Cumbre was my favorite course from that trip, and it's not on anybody's top 100 list.
Right. A lot of courses out there,
Um,
man.
yeah. So I
Well,
don't know. I just yeah.
TC, I know how hard that exercise was for you,
yeah.
and I appreciate.
Take the afternoon off, man. Take a
Yeah,
breath.
that's all.
Get
Yeah, you're done
get
for
your
the day.
get your feet up, man, and
Drink
Yeah.
some electrolytes for me, okay? I don't want you cramping after we end this thing.
oh, good.
God, I just I'm gonna have like trails, sand hills,
Dunaverty,
fishers, Dunaverty, Wild
Machrihanish.
Horse,
Crystal Downs.
Yeah.
Northland. There's all sorts of places. I'm just like,
God,
like
I forgot about Northland. Northland's so sick.
I'm gonna, I need to reach out to some of these people and just tell them, hey,
I mean, yeah,
maybe
that's the thing. Go
maybe if we did it on a Monday,
All
you'd
the
be
people he's
go
walked
be
off
there.
18 with been like, "This is in my top 10," and they're listening to this like, "What the fuck, man? He lied to me.
yeah,
He
that's what I would
lied. He
say.
shook my hand. He looked me in the
Muirfield.
eye."
Go put the Normatec boots on, TC, and charge your phone because you're gonna be getting some calls this afternoon. Boys,
That was
that was a blast. Thank you for hopping on, TC. Neil, always good to be with you. And
God, there were all sorts of
keep doing
questions
these.
that you guys we didn't get to that like what's your go-to swing thought? I don't have one.
That's why we
Yeah.
didn't get to it, you know?
How about that?
Yeah.
Or like how would you what would you equate your golf game to? Neil, you remember that car dad had when we were growing up? The old Mercedes 240D,
Yeah,
like
the diesel.
1972, where that like you could hear coming from like 7
And
miles
it had like
away.
a perpetual oil leak in the garage, like just in the same spot, you know?
Yeah. That would be my golf game of like I think he sold it to some guy like it had like 250,000 miles and he sold it to this guy and it's probably still running today and it has like 700,000 miles on it. And it's a tank and it
TC, I was gonna
I
say the
think the
Volvo.
speedometer only goes up to like 80 miles an hour.
Which I think is accurate, right?
Yeah,
TC's not
exactly.
gonna shoot above, 81, but he's probably not gonna shoot below, 70.
Yeah.
God, that's good stuff.
Yeah,
Well, listen, we got
that
a lot.
The Mercedes sedan, it has, like, it's gonna run forever, and it has a little bit of elegance to it. I was gonna say, when you said you high floor, low ceiling, you're like the London flat. If I'm the big brownstone,
That's right.
you're the flat.
Yeah, just a great piece of real estate,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah,
Great neighborhood.
That's right, exactly, you live
100%.
there forever. Well, listen, we got a lot of fodder for the next episode, TC.
Yeah.
I'm already looking forward to it. But boys, good being with you. Let's, we'll catch everybody next time. Cheers.
Crack on.